Small real estate brokerage versus big brand name brokerage. What are the pros and cons of each of those two options if you're assessing where you want to be operating your real estate business? Well, we're going to dive into it right here in this video so that you know the key elements and factors to consider as you're assessing the playing field of real estate brokerage. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Tyler Roicki. I help people build income and wealth in real estate, and I run an international real estate team at eXp Realty. If you get any value whatsoever out of this video, all I'd ask is that you hit that subscribe button so that I can continue to share more tips and resources with you in the time ahead. And with that being said, let's dive right into the video. So to provide some context as far as my experience with this, I actually started my real estate business 8 years ago at the largest big name brokerage there was in my market area, which is one of the top 10 market areas in the United States as far as population and activity on the real estate side. There's a ton of it, and I worked out of a big franchise brand name with 800 agents. It's a name you would know of today if I told you it. And after 8 months there, closing my first couple deals, really learning a lot in the process, I switched gears and went to a small local independent real estate brokerage. And today I operate my real estate business at the biggest cloud-based brokerage in the industry. So I've seen it all in a big sense. And to be fair too, I also interviewed some very small, like mom and pop style independent brokers when I was getting started in the business. And so I've had to assess this before, and along the way, I've repositioned my business to where today I know I'm at the best place for me personally based on my goals and what it is I'm building. Now for you, I don't know where you're at in the journey, so that's for you to assess, but I can speak to the 4 key things that you'll want to assess and compare and contrast as you're looking at your options going forward. And you might be watching this video because you're at a small mom and pop brokerage and you're wondering what is there at the big brand names, and you're trying to figure out if there's a move to be made to where you can get more of what you need to actually build your real estate business from that point on. And I mean, on the flip side, maybe you're at a big brand name and you're not quite sure that that's where it is that you need to be long-term. Whatever the case is, here are the 4 things that you'll want to consider as you're assessing the playing field in the time ahead. So for one, it's the support. And when you're at a local small real estate brokerage, there's a tendency that your support is going to be based on what a small number of people bring to the table, and you're going to be reliant on that. So like on one end of the spectrum, you might just have the broker themselves who will be your full layer of support. So you're going to be fully reliant on them and their time, and them being able to take the time out of their day when you need help and guidance and to show you the ropes. And that's a reason why some people will get started with the small brokerage. It's because they have a personal connection with that person, or maybe they met them through a friend or a connection. But the whole idea is that, hey, I can come under this one broker's wing and learn the business, the ins and outs. But I would say on a practical level, you want to make sure, if that's the case, that that person truly is going to be accessible and have an open door for you all throughout the day. Because what if they have other things going on? What if they have life going on? What if they have even personal life outside of real estate? What if they are not available for you to tap into? Then what? Where's your support? But depending on the size of the small local brokerage, there might actually be more. Maybe there's an administrative team member. Maybe there's an office manager. Maybe there's someone who's going to be more present for you on the day-to-day. And maybe if it's a sizable independent, local brokerage, maybe there's a whole support staff. But you want to assess and ask, who is there for you as far as support goes? Now on the flip side, your big brand name brokerage, again, depending on the size of the actual office, they're gonna have a tendency to have more in the way of support available for you. Meaning it's not all just gonna fall on the broker like it will a lot of independents, but there's gonna be a tendency that there are different members of the team, perhaps even in the office, who you could turn to. There might be a productivity coach in the office. There might be a team leader in the office. There may be a few other people on staff, maybe a marketing person to connect with, but depending on what you need, there might be accountants, right? So there's gonna be various team members, and that's gonna be more of a tendency for the big brand name brokerages, that you're gonna find more than 1 or 2 people that are there for help and support. That being said, me personally, my experience, even with the biggest brand name in my local market and even the biggest office out of any company in my local market, at that time I still found that despite having the most, there were still times where I didn't feel like I really had the support I needed. Not to be discouraging or anything, but I'd say even if you're at a big brand, I would assess, do you truly have what you need in the way of support? Because if not, I would assess what else is out there, what kind of other structures are out there. And it could look very different depending on how and where you position yourself in the real estate business. But the second point of comparison between the big and the small brokerages is the training. What training is available? On a small local brokerage, there's going to be a tendency for there to be a very limited amount of training, because if it really did fall on the broker themselves, I mean, how much of their week are they spending training agents? I mean, are there really even other agents in the office to train? Because I'll tell you what, even if you're in a big office, a lot of the agents aren't really coming into the office. So depending on how big that local small independent brokerage is, there may or may not be much in the way of training. There might be an hour, 2 hours a week, but what is it that you're going to be learning in the process? Now, on the flip side, the bigger brand names, they're going to have a tendency to have more in the way of training. But even then, I would assess, is it truly what you need? Is the training strictly geared towards newly licensed agents, or is there more for those who are past their first month in the business? Or even if you're brand new today, it's like, assess what are you going to have access to beyond that initial newly licensed agent training? Because it's going to be a very short matter of time before you're not newly licensed anymore. You've been through that basic stuff, but what's next after that? Do you truly have what you need to level up and grow your business? And every company, even the big brand names, they're going to have a completely different offering in the way of training. So truly assess that. But if training is what you need, I would be careful on being confined to what a small real estate brokerage has to offer. And same thing with the support. Since I already mentioned it, I believe one of the most dangerous things that someone can do in their business, especially if they're earlier on in their career, is to have a risk of being dependent on one person to truly have the support and help you need. Because what happens if something happens with that one person? What if life happens? What if they're not truly able to commit the time? Then what? Who do you have to fall back on? Do you have a support network beyond that one broker, beyond that one person who you connected with getting into the business? Or is that the only person you're relying on? And does your business thrive or die based on that one person actually showing up and following through day in and day out? Because that's a risky proposition. If you're running your own business, especially if you need support, you want to position yourself to where you have more and can tap into other people and collaborate with even other highly productive people in this business to help you move the needle forward, regardless if one particular person is there when you need them or not. So we covered support, we covered training. Now let's talk about the third thing that you'll want to compare on, which is leads. This is actually where a small brokerage might thrive, just depending on the setup, because if you think of the big brand names, it's like, if there's an office of a ton of agents, why are they going to give you, as the new person on the block, why are they going to give you the leads? Would you even convert them if they gave them to you? And that's not to throw you under the bus or anything, but have you had any time on task? Have you had any training? If they're spending money, which if they're generating leads, there's going to be spin behind it. Why are they going to spend that money on you so that you can learn trial and error, versus giving those leads to a top producer, someone who can actually convert them, actually has had the time on task experience up to this point? So assess that, legit, why would you as the newest agent in the office get the leads? And are they really even doing anything on that front? And so I say smaller brokerages might have the upper hand, because depending on what they have going in the way of lead generation, if there's not already a ton of agents in there, maybe there is more of an opportunity, but it's very situational. I wouldn't even expect it or say it's a given, because say you've got a broker with a few agents, if that, there might be an opportunity for you to help them with some of the business they have coming in. They might want to close all the business themselves, but if you have that kind of relationship, there might be more of an opportunity. But again, just like the support thing, I would not depend on that to fuel and drive your business, but pose the question, what is in the way for you as far as leads go? But on the flip side, a big brand name brokerage may have more in the way of different lead sources that maybe you can tap into, to the point where perhaps they're not literally giving you leads, but what can you tap into to put yourself in a position to have more leads coming in yourself? there's probably going to be something more there on the bigger brand name brokerages versus a handoff, which depending on the situation, you might have more of an opportunity with the small one. But you got to assess and just pose the question, are there any opportunities for leads? How does that work? How can you position yourself to have those coming in? And is it truly dependent on one person, or are there various lead sources that you can tap into to where you can have more of your own business coming in? And the fourth thing that you're going to want to compare and contrast as you're looking at small versus big brand name brokerages is the compensation. And this is a big one because there's going to be a tendency for there to be a trade-off if you're with a small brokerage. I mean, it can be hit or miss here too, because like there's small brokerages that charge very high splits and fees and whatnot, and sometimes the big brokerages actually do a lot better. But on the flip side, it's funny because there's also small brokerages that charge very little on the fees. There's so-called 100% brokerages out there where the agent actually keeps 100% of their commission minus a flat transactional fee and sometimes monthly or annual fees or some combination of, but it's meant to create the illusion that it's a very low cost transactional brokerage, which it might be a low cost transactional brokerage, but there's a tendency if you do a lot of volume at one of those that it starts to get to a point where it's close, if not more, than a lot of the other places you could be operating at, depending on the volume you're pushing. But what you want to look at is that trade-off, because if it's a situation where even if it were low splits, even if it were 100%, I'd assess like what is the value you're getting in exchange for that money you're paying in. Even if all you're paying in is a small flat fee per transaction, well, what do you get in exchange for that flat fee? Is it just a place to hang your license? Is it just occasional questions answered when you have them? Or like, are you getting more of what you need to actually move the needle in your business? And because it will make a difference. I mean, 100% of zero is still zero. Even if it were 70% or 80% of a significantly bigger number, that's a heck of a lot more. And especially if there's something in the way of a support structure, training, and even lead sources that can help you create a bigger number for your business. So don't make the mistake of looking at the lowest cost option and going with it. Truly assess the value, and especially if you are paying a sizable split to a small local independent brokerage, I would make sure the juice is worth the squeeze. Like, are you really getting back the value on the back end and the other key elements? And that's the key things to summarize. One, support. You're going to want to compare and contrast. What does the support look like? Can the small brokerage really offer as much as you'll need in the way of support compared to a big brand name? Two, training. Same thing. It's like, does the small brokerage have anything going, especially to make sure that you have the actual training you need to continue to grow and develop your business? And even two, does that big brand name offer more than just that newly licensed agent crash course for you to tap into? And if they do, like, what does it entail? Is there significant cost with it? I mean, how do you really position yourself to collaborate and learn from top producers to continue to move the needle for your business? Because there may or may not be an opportunity on either of those fronts. So assess it. But three, leads. What is there in the way of leads for you? How can you position yourself to have them? I mean, if they're saying you're going to get leads, honestly, why would they give them to you if you're newer to the business or don't really have a proven track record of closing deals with this particular brokerage? And fourth, compensation. What do they offer there? And more importantly, what is the value you get for the dollars you will be paying in, no matter how much or how little of those dollars that may be? And so those are the four key points of comparison. And while you're looking at small brokerages, while you're assessing if it's the right fit versus what might be on the other side as far as the bigger brand names, I'm here to help. I'll just say that. Like, if you're assessing how you can best position yourself to have the most in the way of any one of those four things, or if not all four of them, I'd love to learn more about where it is you're trying to go in this business. I'm someone who helps people build their incomes and careers, and my number one goal right now is to help as many people get to a point where they are earning and netting 6 figures of income in the real estate business. So if you're not already at that point, connect with me. I'd love to assess how I can best help and serve you and contribute something of value that will help you get closer to that point, provided that's in alignment with where you're trying to go in this business to create a big income in life for you and your family, or whatever the reason might be why you're doing this. And there is a place I operate my real estate business today, having been at the big brokerage, the small local independent. I tell you, for me personally, I found that neither of these two options were the correct one for me. And there's a reason why today I am operating my real estate business at the largest independent real estate brokerage in the United States, which is the company that is on the forefront of the cloud-based real estate brokerage movement. And so if you'd like to hear more of my insight and input in terms of why I made that change, why I didn't even go for either of these options, and what the support, training, leads, and compensation looks like with this particular business model, I'd love to connect and share more about that with you, and even assess where it is you are at in the business today to figure out whether or not this kind of opportunity would be in alignment with where it is you're trying to go, which the only way for me to know is to learn more about where it is you're trying to go in this business and to see how I can help you get there potentially. So go ahead and do this. Connect with me, reach out. You'll find my email and contact information in the description below. Just let me know where you're at in the business today, where it is you want to go from this point onward, and I'll see how I can help you get there. And if you got value out of this video, all I would ask is that you hit that subscribe button so that I can continue to share more tips and resources with you in the time ahead. And that being said, thank you so much for watching the video. Until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.